There, just turn this guy on.
What do you have to say about that?
Well, here, let me turn this off.
What's that? Okay, welcome to this week's 903 seminar, this continues our 150th anniversary Alumni Seminar Series. When we compiled this list last summer, I guess, Chris's name came right up to the top because we've known Chris for a long time. She was part of the department advisory board. She's on the college advisory board. She's an alum of the department, and she's also CEO of Shure. And when I had to introduce her today, I thought I would use my contacts. So it turned out when Chris won the department alumni award, I was there with lunch with her, and we started talking, and her son was also an ME student and was in the same fraternity as my son, so they knew each other.
Small world.
I reached out to my contact, which is my son today, and I said, can you contact her son and tell me how to introduce Chris? So this is from Adam.
Oh, wow.
And it's short, so
That's
it won't
good.
take too much time. I guess this is mostly. So this is Adam speaking. Started at Shure out of college as a quality engineer and got her master's from Northwestern while working. Minnesota roots, but as a fresh graduate took a chance on an Illinois-based tech company that she saw potential in. And that company shared her love for music. Then he wrote, she's one of the 25 most powerful women in Chicago. So I guess that's an official list that,
I didn't know
that your son recognized. And then he added, she's an avid French horn enthusiast and participant in local concert band. So too bad you didn't bring your French horn today. That would be a fun way. Anyways.
I played in a concert we had at the company yesterday. We had our annual Unplugged event, and I played in a French horn quartet. I found 3 other French horn players in the company.
Okay, so that's all Adam has.
Okay,
but
he's okay now. Yep,
yeah.
He's not in trouble.
Well, I didn't ask him till this afternoon either, so I don't know if I could expect a lot more, but it's really great to have you back, Chris, and I'm just going to turn it over to you.
All right, well, thank you, and it's really an honor to be here for the department's 150th anniversary. So I'm just going to talk a little bit about how is it that, like more than 35 years ago, I was, sitting here in this building. It looked a lot different back then. Sitting here in this building as an ME student, and now to today being CEO of Shure, and almost coming on my 10-year anniversary of being CEO. So what did that career path look like? And I wanted to start out with a quote. I came upon this quote, I don't know, a couple of years ago, and I liked it. And it's from Keanu Reeves, which he's not exactly my favorite actor, but I mean, he's okay. And I just liked this quote. He said, "My life can be summarized in one sentence. Nothing went as planned, and that's okay." So what do I mean about nothing going as planned? That is me in about 1986 in my Air Force ROTC uniform, because I came here and joined the engineering school because I had a full ride from the Air Force ROTC program. And I had full intent of becoming a pilot. I really wanted to fly fighter jets, even though women couldn't get fighter jet pilot slots back then. We could, I guess, do cargo planes, C-130s or something like that, but there was talk that pilot slots for women was in the works. And so I was going to join the Air Force ROTC, which I did, wore my uniform around campus every Thursday, had to go to physical training every Friday morning, and I was going to get a pilot slot and maybe even become an astronaut. So that was my career plan about 40 years ago. And things just kind of changed in my first year. I started taking some of the classes that you take early on in your first year. And my full ride, by the way, from the Air Force was for electrical engineering. And I decided in that first year that that wasn't really for me. I kind of seemed like I needed to gravitate more over towards mechanical engineering. And I met also in my first year my now husband, and I wasn't sure if the military was going to be the way I wanted to go. And I was really actually liking my classes, and I started to think about being in an engineering job after graduation as opposed to going for that pilot slot, which might have been kind of a moonshot anyway. So I did not go in this direction, but let me tell you the direction I did go. So this is actually, I'm sorry, we didn't have iPhones back then. This is the best picture I could get from my mom. She took a picture of a picture, and this is what you get. That's me graduating from here on a really hot day in May in 1989. And I actually had 3 job offers coming out of school that year. One was from Shure, where I ended up landing. That was like the lowest bid, by the way. The other 2 job offers were from the Honda campus outside of Columbus, Ohio. That was fascinating going and seeing that huge, I'm sure it's even bigger now, big auto campus down there. And I really like cars, so that would have been kind of a fun job for me. My second job was up in the Twin Cities, where I came from, the job offer from a company that was making sensors for airplanes, aircraft, so that would have been an interesting tie-in for me too. But it was just noted that somewhere down the road, I had to make a decision of was I going to go into music or was I going to do this pilot engineering thing? Because the French horn really was a passion of mine too. I had made it actually all the way to being first chair of the Greater Twin Cities Youth Orchestra for French horn, so I was kind of up there. And I had a band director that was trying to get me in that direction to go into music, but I decided on the engineering path, and Shure was a good combination of all of that because there's a lot of musicians that work at Shure. It's a very technical company, and my husband was already down in Chicago working there, so it was an easier way to keep us together. We got married right when I got done with school here, and we moved down to Chicago. So if you don't know Shure, I will just play a short video that kind of gives you a glimpse of what all of our products kind of look like.
I'm in a sweet spot. I'm feeling good. The sun is shining. I knew it would. The world's a playground. I'm in the clouds. Let me show you what it's all about. Check it out. I'm gonna light it up. Yeah, I'm gonna light it up. Check it out. I'm gonna light it up. Yeah, I'm gonna light it up. Just check it out. I'm gonna light it up. Yeah, I'm gonna light it up. Let me show you what it's all about. Check it out. Just check me. Let me show you what it's all about. Check it out. I'm gonna light it up. Yeah, I'm gonna light it up. Check it out. I'm gonna light it up. Yeah, I'm gonna light it up. Just check it out. I'm gonna light it up. Yeah, I'm gonna light it up. Let me show you what it's all about. Check it out. I'm on the big stage. I got my crew. I'll get you moving. It's what I do. The party's started. It's going down. Let me show you what it's all about. Check it out. I'm gonna light it up. Yeah, I'm gonna light it up. Check it out. I'm gonna light it up. Yeah, I'm gonna light it up. Just check it out. I'm gonna light it up. Yeah, I'm gonna light it up. Let me show you what it's all about. Check it out. I'm gonna light it up. Yeah, I'm gonna light it up. Check it out. I'm gonna light it up. Yeah, I'm gonna light it up. Just check it out. I'm gonna light it up. Yeah, I'm gonna light it up.
So hopefully that kind of gave you a good picture. Roughly half of our business is oriented toward music and entertainment industry. And then the other half is more for conferencing, collaboration, and even outfitting rooms like this, which is why, of course, there's Shure microphones in this lecture room. So the company is roughly 50-50 between those two major sectors. So I'll tell you about the rest of my Badger family. My husband also graduated from here, like I told you, we met here, and he got a degree in construction management, which I think there's still something like that today, maybe called something different. Half of his classes were in civil engineering, and then he also took some classes in architecture, real estate, business, so kind of a combination of things. He started out working in the housing industry in Chicago, and now today he works more on the commercial side for a company called MSM. And I took a picture of the Salesforce Tower in Chicago. That's one of the newer skyscrapers in the Chicago skyline, and he worked on the interior of that whole building when it was being constructed years back. He was also on the Wisconsin baseball team. I tried to find a picture of him that showed, taking a picture of a picture just like that other one of me with the graduation outfit on, but I couldn't find an appropriate picture. But I know Wisconsin doesn't have a baseball team anymore, but he was on the team before they phased it out, and that's kind of how we met, because for some reason, as a Minnesota resident, I wasn't able to get into dorms my first year. I guess there wasn't enough dorms, so I lived in the Regent. I lived there the whole time I was here. And there was a lot of athletes that lived in the region too, because it was close to all the sporting facilities. So he and I met in the basement of the Regent studying, I guess, and that's how that kind of came together. And then under no pressure from the two of us, both of our kids are Badgers as well. Our son Adam was already mentioned here, I guess. He is an ME student as well. He graduated in 2021. And his first job out of school was at a German machine building company called Trumpf. And they do machines that do, they handle sheet metal, like cutting, forming, bending, laser etching, things like that. And then he most recently moved to a smaller company called Serac that specializes in doing this. I have a little video that shows what the machines at Serac do. They basically fill bottles. And they specialize in liquids that maybe are a bit more viscous, things that are a bit more difficult than like straight water bottles. So this is like that liquid soap that you can buy. That's a project that he's been working on recently. And they specialize in dairy products as well, so a lot of milk, yogurt, and stuff like that. So he is building machines in his daily life. And then our daughter, Nicole, I tried like heck to get her into mechanical engineering, but it didn't work. She went the way of marketing. She graduated from the Granger School, and she immediately took a job up in the Twin Cities at a marketing agency called Ovative, and she had clients like General Mills and Talbot's Catalog and a whole bunch of interesting clients. But then she moved out to San Francisco about a year and a half ago because her boyfriend works for Meta. He's also a UW grad. And she wanted a San Francisco job, so she works at this company called Thuma. They're kind of a newer company. I call them like a glorified IKEA. That's probably demeaning them because they're a higher tier kind of furniture company. And what's interesting from a mechanical perspective to me is their products are put together using what they call Japanese joinery. So instead of getting 1,000 tools like you do with IKEA stuff to put together, the joinery system works very conveniently because you can easily put a bed together or a piece of furniture together and disassemble it again easily and reset it up when you're moving. So she is doing marketing for that company now. It's kind of an exciting new role for her. So we are all Badgers, and that's our family story. So why did I go to Shure, and what's the UW connection? And it was said that I started as a quality engineer. So interestingly, during my time here, there was a professor named Professor Ermer. And he taught a required class that we all had to take at that time, engineering econ. I know it's something that you all have to take still today. I think we had to do a full semester back then. So went through that class, and through going and getting help from him during study hours, found out that he also had all these quality engineering classes. He was a Procter & Gamble Baskin professor in total quality. So show of hands, out of curiosity, how many people have heard of total quality or total quality management, TQM? Okay, just a really small percentage of people here. How many people have heard of lean manufacturing, lean principles? Okay, so lean in manufacturing back in the day was called TQM. I don't know why it got rebranded somewhere along the way, but basically he was teaching reliability engineering and classes in statistical process control. And I found that really interesting because when I was going back to Minnesota during the summers, I worked for a company that made artificial hips and artificial knees. And after my freshman year, I still was learning a lot of stuff, right? So I worked as a quality inspector and really kind of got interested in the field of quality. I went back a second semester and I did CAD work. I was a drafter, and I think we were using AutoCAD at that point. It was a new thing. And I liked the quality job better than I did sitting at the computer job. And I just love being on a manufacturing floor, understanding variability, understanding how machines work. So that kind of informed me that I wanted to stay on the manufacturing track, not a design track. And the quality classes that Irmer was teaching were super interesting to me. So I took everything he offered in statistics and reliability engineering. That was just the direction I knew I wanted to go. And then Shure came into play because Shure's heritage is very much a foundational belief in high quality and building products that stand the test of time. I brought a Shure SM58 with me today, and you can see there's wireless SM58s over here that are always part of this classroom. This is a special one for our 100th anniversary last year. We have dropped this microphone from not this one particular, but this model, we have dropped from the 7th floor of our headquarter building onto a marble floor down below, plug it in and it still works. We will do competitions where people try to destroy the mic and then sing a karaoke song into it, and it's still working after 100 people have tried to destroy this thing. So quality is built into Shure products. It's what I found fascinating about the company when they came on campus. So here's just a little bit more descriptive video about Shure's quality legacy.
For nearly a century, Shure has been a prominent innovator in the world of audio. From a one-man radio parts wholesaler in Chicago to a leader in audio systems with offices across the globe, our passion for the power of engineering has set the standard for performers, content creators, AV and IT professionals, and music lovers. Though we started in 1925, our first major innovation took the world stage in 1939, the iconic Unidyne microphone. Its unique engineering radically reduced acoustic feedback and background noise pickup, quickly making it the gold standard for public address, broadcast, and two-way radio. Our Unidyne earned the IEEE Milestone Award, honored alongside other watershed technologies like Edison's light bulb and Marconi's radio. Microphone innovation has continued nonstop over the decades, yielding time-tested, industry-leading mics like the SM57 for instruments, SM58 for vocals, and SM7B broadcast mic, with newer models constantly rolling out. Shure's success is also owed in large part to relentless quality and durability testing, using standards first established when we supplied military microphones during World War II. We use punishing in-house durability tests, like salt fog moisture baths, extreme temperature exposure, impact testing, and even sweat machines that mimic high-intensity live performance situations. We test audio quality in our state-of-the-art anechoic chambers that remove nearly all background noise and vibration for uncompromised results. And while our in-house facilities are one way to trial products, we also spend time in the field side by side with our customers, the top audio professionals in the world. Our extensive beta test programs ensure that we deliver the features and performance our customers need. As live productions have grown more complex, Shure has enabled professionals with wireless solutions. In fact, we introduced the first wireless microphone in 1953, and by the 1990s, wireless technology became a key focus area. The move to wireless required new engineering skills and testing environments. Our radio frequency isolation chambers let technicians work free from interference from things like TV, Wi-Fi, and cell phones. As available radio spectrum for wireless microphones decreased, we introduced digital wireless in 2011. Today, our digital wireless microphones are used across the world, from the biggest sporting events and global concert tours to the top business conferences. Our advancements in wireless microphones were built on an explosion of software and networking advances, yielding more intelligent products that worked more effectively and sustainably. Our deep experience in acoustics, design, and software innovation comes together in products like our Aonic line of Bluetooth headphones, professional content creation gear like the MV88 Plus video kit and MV7 podcast mic, and our quickly growing enterprise communication portfolio. The Microflex ecosystem brings award-winning audio quality to boardrooms, governments, and institutions, powered by software solutions like IntelliMix. And our STEM ecosystem brings the freedom of effortless collaboration audio practically everywhere. Because of our unique role as an industry leader and influencer, we feel a responsibility to be a good corporate citizen, neighbor, and employer. We are longtime supporters of fine arts and STEM programs in the communities where we do business, and are dedicated to investing in the next generation of arts and technology. With an ever-expanding presence across Asia, Europe, Africa, and the Americas, our pursuit of audio perfection endures and continues to lead the world. Learn more at shure.com.
So a lot of those quality tests that you saw in there were things that I worked on in my first job at Shure. In case you're ever wondering about that sweat machine, you can actually buy synthetic sweat, and that's what we use in that test. It smells like stale French fries that have been stuck under the seat of your car for a couple of years. It's pretty disgusting. But anyway, I'm going to talk a little bit about that first job to start out with. What did I do in engineering? And then kind of get into how did I get into managing after that? And then from managing to what I've been doing the last 10 years as CEO, more in a leading capacity. So I was able to go into the Shure archives and find some photographs that I didn't even know existed. So my first job involved frequency response testing. So you saw in the video the anechoic chamber. So the picture of me on the far left there is one of our development anechoic chambers where we were testing probably a SM58 or something like that. But we also had production anechoic chambers where on a high-speed basis, we would send products in and out of a sound room on an automated transport. And it was my job to make sure that that transport was working and we were getting production out the door. So that was one of my first nightmares, actually. And then the photograph in the middle was a test that we were developing for some of our microphones. Condenser mics are a type of microphone that I won't get into the details on, but they have, they work. The transducer is formed by effectively making a capacitor between a diaphragm and a backplate. And any amount of contamination that gets into that interface can cause like a self noise in the microphone that is very, kind of staticky sound. They're very sensitive to that. So we had to do this test in this giant room that was kind of isolated from everything else. And I was able to work with a bunch of other people in the company to make an online test and do something that could be done right in sequence with manufacturing instead of having to batch things up and take them into this big separate room. And I guess that was a lab tour that was being done probably about 1990, where people were seeing how the new test would work. And then we were doing a lot of machine parts back in that day ourselves before we did a lot of outsourcing of that in later times. But CNC machines were new for us anyway. So you see the Chiron lathe that we had purchased there. Before that, everything was pretty manual in terms of all the mills and lathes that we were using in the company. So it was fun to get CNC machines in-house. That team that I was working with there, again, we were looking at the variability of some of the measurements coming out and trying to figure out how could we reduce the variability and make the quality of the components better. So still with that quality bent of my early days. Here's I have two more videos that just kind of show some of the typical processes that I was working on back in the day. So you can kind of see what some of the components inside a microphone look like and what some of the typical sort of gluing and soldering processes look like.
We wanted to do something no one has ever done before, reverse the flow of a dynamic mic. Our engineers gave us hundreds of pages of math, that proved it could be done, but current manufacturing processes made it impossible. We had to reinvent the way we make microphones to make dual dyne a reality.
So all of those processes were a lot of fun. I'm going to talk right now a little
The
bit
twin pla-
about a fork in the road that I had to make a choice on. Did I want to continue working on those processes and being on the factory floor, or with total quality, aka lean principles, now coming to Shure in the early 90s, I was actually, because I had taken all the classes here at UW, I was a little bit of a novelty at Shure in being a subject matter expert on things like statistical process control, reliability engineering, and we were starting up all of these teams that were trying to look at all the processes in our factories and figure out, for an SM58, for example, why does it take 35 days from beginning to end to convert this thing from raw materials into a finished microphone? Some of those processes where you saw like gluing operations, there was literally some gluing operations where you had to wait for about 48 hours for the glue to cure before you could go on to the next operation. So we were able to, I took the path in the road that said, I'm going to do some work in education and training with all of the teams in the manufacturing plants on how to implement TQM. And that was, we were able to take that SM58, by the way, from about 35 days down to a matter of 3 to 4 hours. So that was done in about a 9-month period of time. And in the picture of the people in the suits and ties, that was the executive staff of Shure at that time, listening to some of the improvements that we had been making. And the man that I circled was the then president of the company. And he was very fired up about how we were making all these changes on the factory floor. And he challenged me a little bit and said, there's all these books that you have on SPC. Can you find a book, which I did find, the book that's circled, can you find a book that talks about how to do this in the business side of the company? Take it off of the shop floor and let us look at our business processes in marketing and finance and IT. And is there some way that we can apply these, doing things in shorter periods of time? Can we do that in our business cycle as well? So we did a book study. I met with all the executives. We did a book study on that book. I was terrified, by the way, of suddenly being invited into the C-suite to somehow educate these executives on this new sort of material. But they were very open-minded to it, and having Mr. Kogan's backing, he was the main boss, so they were all going to listen to him. He also let me hire a summer intern that year. And I think she was at Purdue at that time. We went around and we mapped out 30 different business processes, and we were trying to measure the variability in all these business processes. Suffice it to say, the welcome mat was not always out for us in every single department, but they had to do it because the boss told them they had to do it. So we learned a lot that year, and it opened up my mind to the other parts of the company that I hadn't been exposed to. And I started thinking more about where did I want my career to go? Kind of culminating that that thinking process was there were a lot of quality awards that were kind of given out in the day. You might have heard of the Malcolm Baldrige Quality Award if you're familiar with TQM. There was also an award called the Quality Cup that the USA Today newspaper and the Rochester Institute of Technology were running back then. And they invited people to write essays about their improvement projects at their companies. So I took that SM58 going from 35 days to a matter of hours in production and wrote up a story on it, submitted it, and it won. And the one time I actually got to meet Mr. Shure in person was here, and I didn't even, until recently, I didn't know that this photo was in our archives, but there it is, it was captured. He's got the award sitting in front of him, and I have a plaque kind of talking about what the project was that allowed Shure to win that Quality Cup. So I was definitely thinking a lot about my career at that point and thinking that I wanted to get more involved with the other parts of the company besides manufacturing and maybe do some leading and managing. And right around the time that we won that Quality Cup thing, a job for quality manager opened up in the company, and I was so excited about that. And I really thought like the job was going to be mine because I had just done all this stuff, you know. And long story short, somebody else got the job. And it kind of made me think and made me learn actually that you can't just assume that by working hard and doing all the right stuff that somebody's going to notice and be able to read your mind about what you want to do. So I went to the then VP of Quality and kind of asked like, well, what happened? You know, how'd that other person get that job? And he's like, well, you never said anything. How was I supposed to know that you wanted to, get into management? So that was one of my first lessons, that you have to take a little bit of control. You do have to have some amount of plan, even if the plan doesn't go, the way you thought it was. You do have to make your wants, desires, and goals known. So upon, that being stated, I guess, I decided I had to go back to school and learn some more about management. So Shure was headquartered in Evanston at that time. And Northwestern has, at that time, the program was already 20 years old, and now, of course, there's 2 more decades that have passed. They had this great degree called a Master's of Engineering Management. So half the classes were traditional kind of MBA kind of classes, so I learned everything about marketing and finance, accounting, things that I kind of sort of knew, but I didn't know all the details around and the terminology. And then the other half of the classes were any kind of technology track you wanted to take. So I, at the time, being heavily involved in manufacturing, I took a supply chain track, which proved to be very beneficial in future years. So that was a really good program to get into. And from there, I was able to start growing into different parts of the company. This shows a timeline of Shure's leadership through the years. And the first thing that kind of stands out with a 100-year-old company is that for 91 out of those 100 years, the company was being run either by Mr. or Mrs. Shure. He started the company in 1925, and when he died in 1995, Mrs. Shure was already in her mid-70s. She could have sold the company, done whatever she wanted to, but the company was really her life and her passion. And she decided she was going to take the reins at that point, became chairman. And she decided she wanted to start, kind of looking at some of her own management team members. So I had mentioned Mr. Kogan, 81. He was the president when I started. Around that time that Mr. Shure passed away, he decided he was going to retire. He was also in his mid-70s. And Mrs. Shure took a chance on Sandy LaMantia in 1996. He had just started with the company as the head of engineering. She knew that somebody from a technology perspective needed to be running the company, and she decided to promote him after he had 6 months in his VP of engineering role into being the CEO of the company. So the two of them started working on their own management team, their own management structure, and invited me to become a member of the executive staff as vice president of quality because the person I had been mentored by retired as well. And became a member of the executive team pretty early in my career. It was a fast ride, and there was a lot to learn getting into the executive seat that early. But lots of good lessons learned, and so kind of some of the titles that I had through the years are on this chart here, and how that kind of maps to the Shure history. So 1997, like I said, was VP of Quality. In 2000. I kept quality, but also got all the manufacturing plants and all of the supply chain part of things, so taking all those supply chain classes was fortuitous. And I have this picture that I found in the archives from 2001. Mr. and Mrs. Shure had a meeting with me at that point, and yes, I was about 8 months pregnant with my daughter then, and they wanted to know if someday I would think about, maybe taking the CEO seat if it were available, and I, of course, said yes. And because that was kind of in their sights, in 2006, they asked me to take a really hard left turn and be the Executive Vice President of Sales and Marketing. I kind of had done everything on the inside of the company. I had worked on new products, had worked on all the existing products, and they felt like if I was going to get to CEO at some point, I would have to have that customer exposure as well. So did sales and marketing for the 10 years before becoming the CEO and president in 2016. So what is life like today after having all of those management roles? What does it mean to lead versus manage? I consider one of the most important parts of my job defining the new product roadmap at Shure. I have a very aggressive goal. I won't tell you the exact percentage, but we have a goal that a certain amount of our revenue coming into the company has to come from products that are 2 years old or less. Now, mind you, this is a company that has products that were developed and put into market in 1966, and we still sell a lot of these things. So having a big proportion of our revenue come from brand new, less than 2-year-old products is a very stretch goal. But everybody has that kind of in their sights. They know that's what's driving us. And in the world that we live in today, we can't just rest on our laurels and sell SM58s for the rest of our life. We have to have new products. So we define a roadmap every year. Of course, things change throughout the course of the year, but we're always looking 3 years out in terms of what are all the new solutions we need to be bringing to the market. I'll show you, here's a video of a product. I was just at a trade show in Barcelona 2 weeks ago, and this is one of our new conferencing solutions that we just launched. So I think one of the takeaways from that was the highlight on the video. And so for a 100-year-old audio company now to be focusing on video, that's something new for us. And then all of the peripherals, the software, the being Microsoft Teams certified is a big part of this product launch. And we're just going to get this into the market in April. So it's pretty exciting product launch for us. So, here, I'll show you this one too, because this just shows the interesting applications that some of our customers think about for our solutions. So this product has been in the market a little bit longer, but used for like mobile journalism. So people that are out, trying to collect news, maybe with their phones, basically. So we have a microphone that will plug into the phone and use an app to control it. So here's somebody that came up with a pretty interesting way of using it.
Howler monkeys make the most incredible sound. But capturing it clearly while getting the best audio and video can be difficult. MoveMic 88 Plus gives me the versatility to tell the story of this place and these incredible animals using just one microphone. So for the howler monkeys, the monocardioid pickup pattern is perfect, because I can point the microphone at where they'll pass by.
But for something complex like the bat volcano, I can switch to the stereo pickup pattern, which helps me capture a much more immersive audio experience.
And I can do it all, record video and configure the mic in the Motive Video app.
With the MoveMic 88 Plus, I can set the microphone wherever I want and have the sound sent directly to my phone so I can focus on the shot I need.
MoveMic 88 Plus gives me the freedom to tell the story of Kalikmul in ways I couldn't with other microphones.
So never imagined we'd be making bats and monkeys someday, but it just goes to show you that you need to be looking for new applications all the time. So another part of my job that I look at it, it's really, sometimes it's easier to figure out what are the new things that we want to launch because we never have a shortage of ideas about what we want to do as a company and new products we could be developing. There's a Michael Porter quote that says, "The essence of strategy is choosing what not to do." So the hardest thing for me sometimes is deciding what kind of businesses do we need to get out of or what kind of businesses do we need to stop. And earphones and headphones, you saw in the video, we do have lots of earphones and headphones, but they're very much aimed at like professional users. And if somebody as a consumer wants to buy them, they certainly can too, because they're available on Amazon. But a couple of times in our history over the last 25 years, we've chased consumer business. So this is the original iPod from 2001, when everybody was so excited about having 1,000 songs in their pocket, you know, way before the iPhone, of course. And we had just been packaging up our earphones that we were selling with our monitoring system. So when you see like a big band up on stage, the old way of them getting a loop back of the mix was to have big floor speaker wedges aimed at them so they could kind of hear what the mix sounded like. Very detrimental to people's hearing. So when you see performers now with the in-ears, they're getting that whole mix. They know what, you know, the whole performance sounds like in a much safer way. Well, we noticed that the earphones that we were selling with those monitoring systems were far outpacing the actual, you know, systems. And we realized that people were using them to use with their CD players and other music players before the iPod came out. So we packaged them up as a consumer thing. Then the iPod came out, and suddenly we were the option to somebody buying an iPod to the crummy crummy earpods that came with them. They could buy a Shure and upgrade their entire listening experience. So we did that, and I was in operations back then running the plants, and I think we had to increase our volume by like 25x or something like that. We could not make these earphones fast enough. It was awesome. It was a lot of fun. It was a big wave to ride. We were in Circuit City and Target and Best Buy and all these different retail stores until everybody else realized it was a really good business, like Bose and other such competitors. And we weren't the only sort of premium game in town anymore, and it became really competitive. And downward price pressures were happening, and people always wanted the newest feature, the newest color, the newest packaging, and it was detracting us from the core of our business, really. So we had to take a step backwards and say, well, let's get out of this consumer thing. We'll still make earphones, but only for the professionals. If a consumer wants to buy them, they're still there. We did that again. History has a funny way of repeating itself, because after the original wired earphones came out, then Bluetooth became the big thing in the late 2010s. And so we thought, well, we are a company that knows wireless, we know earphones. Obviously, Bluetooth earphones are where we need to be. And so we got back into that game again, and we're selling Bluetooth earphones. And it was a great business, again, until it wasn't. Everybody started coming to that party. There's so many Bluetooth earphones that you can buy, and we realized there's some pretty good sub $50 earphones you can buy on Amazon. And, you know, we were sucking a lot of money and resources away from other things that were more core to our business. So we had to step out of that. And it's always a hard decision because people are very much in love with our products. They loved seeing, you know, us in a consumer business, but we had to step away from that one. But on the other hand, a business like podcasting, that's become a really core part of our business. It's interesting that the product on the right-hand side here, the SM7B, that is a product that came to market in 1973. It's a little bit of, you have to go through a little bit of a process to be a podcaster with it, because you need a preamp and some special cables and whatnot. But people do that because it's become kind of a viral sensation. And a lot of, leading into the pandemic, a lot of influential gamers were using it for esports, and it just became a look that people liked and a sound that people liked. And during the pandemic, then when everybody became a content creator, it was like the de facto podcasting standard, and we've created the little brother of it. The microphone that's on the left-hand side of the screen here is from the Motive line. That's a Motive 7, and it's more of a plug-and-play experience. It's a little bit easier than the big brother version of it. So that's during the pandemic, I should mention the benefit of having a diversified portfolio. there was not a lot happening in the live music scene, right? 2 straight summers without any summer musical festivals. There was no venues open. You couldn't go to a live concert. So that part of our business basically shut down overnight. So having content creators and people working from home and needing microphones and equipment turned out to be a really good balance for us. And then an example of expanding into new markets in a different way, you saw from the video that we're in a lot of sporting arenas, but we use a lot of traditional microphones, like the parabolic mics that you see on sidelines and whatnot. Here, what we are doing is taking a product that we designed for the conference room, array microphones, which are normally in the ceiling in a conference space, and placing them in examples here would be like the stanchion of a basketball hoop. So you see the little round array microphone getting put on there. Now, instead of having microphones interspersed throughout the whole arena, the broadcast engineer actually has the control of being able to steer beams to anywhere that he or she wants to in that arena. So, and they can change the mix a little bit. If suddenly there's a desire to catch the squeak of the basketball shoes, you can turn that up a little bit. If you want to hear more of the crowd noise, you can control that. So we're just launching the DCA right now, and it's making its way into some basketball arenas. It's my understanding that one of the Olympic curling events has a DCA installed as well, and perhaps even a cross-country event, I guess. So coming to a sporting event near you. Just with my eye on the clock here a little bit, just a little bit more about a couple other things that I consider I need to be doing in the leadership role that I have. I belong to a lot of organizations outside of Shure. When you work at a company for decades like I have, you understand the importance of getting out and seeing what other companies are doing and what other parts of the industry are doing. So, of course, I keep in touch with my alma maters, Wisconsin and Northwestern, but I also belong to organizations like the Executives Club of Chicago and the Economic Club, which when I first got involved with them, I thought, what am I as this like manufacturing person? How am I going to mix with these bankers and consultants and people that are in these kind of groups? And it's been absolutely fascinating getting to meet people and understand different ways of doing things, different ways of looking at a problem. And it's really opened up my eyes a lot. And so I try to spend a lot of time outside of the 4 walls of Shure, networking, learning. You know, there's never a day when you can't learn something. I also have to be fairly active in our trade organizations like AVIXA, ISE. And the reason for that is, you know, you look at a room like this that has a lot of sound and video, it's not all Shure branded stuff that's bringing this presentation to you. We have to work with other brands. And so the industry organizations like AVIXA, for example, and I'm on the board of AVIXA, we have to make sure that people are coming into the AV industry in a proper way and that they get the right kind of training. We offer classes, that we have standards as kind of frenemies in the industry. We need to work together for our end users to have a successful event, no matter what it is. And we can provide certifications. We can put a stamp of approval on somebody that really knows our standards and knows our processes really well. So I get involved in not just what is Shure doing as a company, but what is our whole industry doing. And I think it's really important to have those kind of connections. Also have to do work with the government in sort of like a lobbying capacity. So our wireless products get used in a lot of places where wireless spectrum is becoming smaller and smaller to us every day. And when you compare not just Shure as a company, but like say our industry groups like I just mentioned, we are a drop in the bucket compared to like the Magnificent 7 technology companies that are fighting for wireless spectrum as well. So we have to talk with people, like this is a photograph of me meeting with Jan Schakowsky from Illinois. In the early 2000s, I think she came when we were trying to fight for some spectrum to remain available for our industry. You have to, you know, kind of convey every sporting event you watch, every concert you go to, every venue where there's a performance, you know, the wireless microphones are needed for our culture as a society. And, you know, kind of get that message continually in front of everybody in DC so they don't just arbitrarily turn off microphones in favor of other industries. So as recently as this time last year, last April, we made yet another trip to Washington, DC. met with Chairman Carr to talk about the importance of wireless microphones in all of our cultural events as a country. We were able to talk about the upcoming Olympics in LA, as well as FIFA coming to the US and the United States 250th anniversary, all very important things to this current administration, and we wanted them to understand the wireless spectrum needed to carry off all of those events. So we had those meetings there, and I got the chance, yes, to stand at the presidential podium. There's always been Shure microphones on every presidential podium for as long as any of us can remember. And then coming back to UW, so this is from 2017. Was very honored to get the Distinguished Achievement Award back then. And you know, just continuing to network. This is a photograph last year of me and Satya Nadella, CEO of Microsoft. Again, if I hadn't kind of gone outside of my comfort zone and joined something like the Executives Club of Chicago, I wouldn't have the chance to network with people like this. And it was really important for me to be able to sit down next to him at lunch, because Shure is, you know, we're trying to get in all these Microsoft Teams conference rooms now, right, and be certified. So it's good to be an ambassador to the company and get out there and meet the people that I need to in order for the company to be successful. Trade shows, always at trade shows. I mentioned the one where we launched that IntelliMix room bar a couple weeks ago. At that same trade show 4 years ago, I got to tour the Shure booth with the King of Spain. So that was kind of fun to meet him. I don't know if you know King Philippe. His wife is Queen Letizia, and she used to be a she used to be like a reporter at a local television station in Spain. So right away when I showed King Philippe the SM58, he said, "Oh, you know, my wife, she was a reporter. She used your products all the time." I have no idea if she did, but I'm like, oh yes, she definitely used the Shure SM58. So it was nice to be able to have that honor to make that connection. And yeah, going to another trade show coming up here in a couple of months called Infocom. So just trying to get out there and get the Shure message out, part of my everyday job. So I will culminate here talking a little bit about probably the most important part I have to do in my job as a leader of the company is, you know, I have to go outside, make sure I'm learning new things and see all the people that need to know about Shure. But the associates that make the company run, that's what Mr. and Mrs. Shure always were very strong about, infusing their core values into the company. So making sure we do the good quality products, making sure we're good corporate citizens, making sure we respect each other, and making sure that we run the company in the most ethically way possible. So that is something that I carry on every day. This was a celebration we had recently for Diwali. Every 18 months or so, we do a patent celebration for all of the engineers and product managers who have received patents over the last year and a half. We do more and more patents every year. We make a very big deal out of it and make sure people are, you know, they're obviously very proud of their patents, but we hopefully make them even more proud. We do a lot of community outreach. I think there's a couple Shure engineers here that were working with some Girl Scouts on a technology badge that they were all trying to earn. These couple of pictures here are from 2 weeks ago. There was an event at the Chicago Museum of Science and Industry called the Black Creativity Showcase. So we've gone there for about 5 years straight now, and we show little kids how to use microphones and headphones, earphones. And it's really kind of interesting seeing like how rambunctious they all are and be in the museum and stuff. And then as soon as you put a microphone in front of their face, they get really shy. They get a little scared, you know, they have the microphone there. But it's good to, you know, kind of introduce them to technology and the company and, you know, maybe have them think about a job they could have someday. We had a recent Valentine's celebration at our plant in Juarez. Last week we had DJ music during a Black History Month luncheon. This is a picture of me in our Suzhou China factory just right before that trade show in Barcelona, actually, getting a plant tour and then also participating in the New Year celebration that evening, which was a lot of music, a lot of entertainment all night long. We all had to get involved in one way or another. I didn't bring my French horn, but I did participate in a dance, I guess. our Mexico City associates doing some gift giving around the holiday season. And then here's the end. Since we're celebrating 150 years of the Mechanical Engineering Department, we celebrated 100 years at Shure last year, and it was 13 different celebrations around the world, all incorporating music and the arts. So we had, I think, 15 different groups on stage for our headquarter party. This was a party in Copenhagen. That one is in Sao Paulo. This one is Hyderabad. Maybe you can see me in the back row there for the celebration in Shanghai, one of my favorite cities. And a cooking party, of all things, in Dubai. 100th party in the plant in China. This was in Tokyo. We actually painted, this team of 5 of us, there was different groups of people that had to paint different pictures of microphones. So we painted that whole wall there. And that's hanging up in our Tokyo office now. So that was an interesting way to celebrate. It was a lot of fun. We had a rock and roll party in London. We did painting also in Hong Kong. So a lot of fun and unique ways to celebrate 100 years. So I like to think that I'm not in the fighter jet flying all around the globe, but it's turned out okay because I still get to fly all around the planet and meet a lot of really fascinating people and carry the Shure message around. So it turned out okay. So not according to plan, but okay. So, and that's all I have for you today. Thank you.
Okay, we have time for a couple of questions.
Oh yeah, and if there's questions, you have to use a Shure microphone.
Yeah.
And we gotta make sure that it gets turned on. There we go.
Is it working? Oh, that is a nice microphone.
Thank you.
Thanks for the talk. One of the questions that came up in my mind was how does Shure protect its intellectual property and especially kind of prevent copycats from immediately spawning?
Yeah,
that makes sense.
we have a patent committee that makes that sort of discernment about what is the stuff that we need to protect and put through the patent system versus maybe the things that we want to keep more trade secret, part of what I call the secret sauce. So there's a fine line between what we're going to go and patent and what we want to kind of keep as trade secret. And the committee is a cross-functional group that makes those determinations. So it's not an easy call to make. And there's a lot of copycats out there for sure. I always say the biggest form of flattery, or what is it? Copying is the most incredible part of, I forget the saying, I'm sorry. But we get a lot of mimics and a lot of copies of our products, particularly out of China. And the best thing that you can do is just show people, educate people as to how to spot a real, how to spot a fake, and usually they can tell what the real thing is. But it's always like a little bit of a problem. Yeah.
So you talked about how you want a certain amount of your revenue to be from products in the last couple of years, but you also sell some of these legacy 60s, 70s products. How do you decide when a product needs to be cycled out, and are those legacy products kind of modernized and repackaged and sold at a more economic price or something like that?
Yeah. So our product management group is the one that every year they comb through all of our SKUs and kind of look at which variations are we literally selling, like maybe one a month of or something like that. And is there an option that we can sell a customer to? If a customer really wants that product, there's probably another option we can give to them. So we're always we do a refresh every single year, and we try to prune out our SKUs by about 5 to 10%. And then the second part of your question was about, what was the second part of your question again?
It was about for your older products, do you modernize them?
Yeah, but they have to be modernized over time. I mean, the basic core design stays the same, but the simple fact of the matter is our suppliers change, materials change. Right now, of course, in the United States, there's a lot of effort to get PFAS out of products and certain other detrimental chemicals in products. So constantly we're having to swap out old components and put in new ones. So, but we usually try to maintain the essence of what the customer really likes. So the frequency response, how the product sounds, how it looks. But certainly like the SM58 today is not the same SM58 that it was in 1966, but it's pretty similar, yeah. Okay. Tom's raising his hand.
Yeah, you mentioned you went to grad school for business, and to any engineers that are interested in business leadership, how would you advise when to know when business graduate school is like appropriate or going to be helpful?
So that's a really good question. And I guess maybe I didn't mention it. I had been doing my engineering job at Shure for about 4 or 5 years when I decided to go get that master's degree. And I think that was really beneficial because half of what I got out of that was the curriculum itself and what I learned, but the other half was working with other people from Motorola, Kraft, all these other companies that were actually a lot bigger than Shure, and learning what other people were doing at other companies. And I could talk about what Shure was doing too. If I had done that just like only a year or so out of school, I don't know that I would have that same sort of deep experience. So for me, it was better to wait a few years and get some experience, especially when I had that period where I was working with measuring variability in business processes and getting to know the parts of the company outside of manufacturing. For me, I would typically advise to get a little experience before going straight into business school.
With microphones like of such good quality with Shure, like how do you guys draw the line of when a microphone is good enough to start selling, and like when do you stop the work of trying to make it better, and just get it to market?
How did you get to the crux of what I have to figure out every single day? Because our engineers are truly perfectionists, and you can over-engineer something quite easily. So having kind of this pressure about wanting to get new products to market with that metric that I mentioned has helped to an extent. And now that more and more of our products are software enabled and software based, that makes it a little bit easier too, because you think about how long our hardware lasts in the marketplace. It's very durable, that's what we're known for. But is there a way that you can maybe have that device being managed in the Shure Cloud, which is something that we've brought to market now in the last couple of years, where you can remotely control, monitor devices, and dispatch software upgrades as appropriate. So it's good from a sustainability perspective. We still have a business model that works, and we can give people upgrades and enhancements. If they don't need them, they don't need them. But increasingly, that's what we're trying to do. And that allows us to get something to market that maybe doesn't have every single bell and whistle that engineer imagined, but it gets to market, and then people that need those future upgrades can buy them from us. So that's kind of our new philosophy. But you really hit on something. People can't stop playing with things, yeah. Right down here, there's hand's been raised for a minute here, Tom.
Thank you so much for sharing your story with us. Very enlightening. By the way, Professor Don Irmer was my academic uncle, so thank you so much for making him. I just want to, I wonder if we could share with your thought about potential impact of AI and machine learning on the Shure's business product manufacturing, business operation, and other things.
That's true. So I'll talk about it from the product perspective and then about our internal operations a little bit. From the product perspective, one of the things that a lot of our algorithms do, I find it interesting that everybody's talking about AI now, because we've been doing AI and machine learning of some of our algorithms for almost a decade now. So when you are in a conference space and you want to, on the other end, not have people hear if somebody's typing on their